In Uganda, the oil and gas space is seeing some interesting developments with regards to future oil and gas deals. Earlier today, Alishia Seckam spoke to Elly Karuhanga, partner at Kampala Associated Advocates, and also Myburgh, Sub-Saharan Africa Strategist at Citi.
I think that development is probably related to the heritage oil tax dispute that you alluded to in the news broadcast, because the issue there is that the tax authorities are claiming a $400-odd capital gains tax from Heritage Oil on the sale of part of their stake, which Heritage has disputed. Now, just to put it in context, I mean, $400 million is approximately 20% of total budget revenue. It's a material number that we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. So, I get the sense of what happened is that the president has looked at this and said, well, we now ended off in this big dispute with an oil company, and he basically wants to intervene to make sure that this type of thing doesn't happen again. And I would argue, we haven't seen it explicitly, but I would think that his intervention is related to what's happened to the heritage tax deal.
Well, that's some foreign perspective on what's transpiring over in Uganda, Elly. I mean, do you see this causing conflict within government itself, where we now have an energy minister having to get written consent before signing any deals, or is there broad-based consensus on this process?
Hello?
Hi, Elly. Can you hear us here in studio?
Yes, I can hear you, Alishia.
Let's run through what you're making of what's transpiring over on that end, where we now have, an energy minister having to get written consent before signing any deals in the oil and gas space. Is there consensus on the process this industry is set to follow from here on out?
Yeah, I think the process is ongoing, and I'm sure there will be an understanding, especially now that the president has also said he would like to participate in decision making. As you know, the oil industry is new, so its entire chemistry and the type of agreements they make are very international, and yet they are new here. So it is important that all the stakeholders, including the president, can participate in decision making, and then they come to a final conclusion without ever regretting the auditing of it in future. So yes, the participation by the president is a very welcome one.
Well, there has been some criticism that's surrounded this entire thing, Elly, with the opposition party saying that Museveni's directive was aimed at giving him greater control over funds in the sector. He wants to, and I quote, amass wealth as much as possible, which obviously explains his interest in personally controlling the oil bonanza that's coming. So there is much controversy that does present itself around this, and transparency, again, would be key. Are you confident in this being, or in government achieving transparency on that level?
Yeah, I think the involvement of the president it makes the whole thing more transparent, because he is always with his officials when he's taking decisions. He's always with his officials when he's meeting the oil industry people. I am the president of Tullow Oil Uganda, and we have been receiving good attention, and his intervention has always been very positive.
Well, Leon, we know, as you say, I mean, Tullow Oil, Heritage Oil, Neptune Petroleum and Dominion are just some of the firms that are operating in this sector, which is expected to begin commercial production at the end of this year. What do you see this doing to foreign investor sentiment in this space?
Well, I think it'd be very positive. You know, we would expect that it's not just simply about the oil industry, but a lot of the oil finds the Lake Albert region is in a very undeveloped part of the economy of the country. So there's huge amounts of infrastructure needed to actually link Lake Albert with the export ports, with the commercial capital, so there's a huge amount of requirements outside of just simply the drilling operation. Mm-hmm. I suspect that people will look at us. They're going to say that this is a country where we're now going to become an oil country. We're going to a country that will go from a current account deficit probably hopefully into a current account surplus. Mm. I mean, that might take a very, very long time for that to transpire. But at least in the short term, it looks as though that the oil that they will produce would be sufficient to meet their domestic demand. Now, it's not necessarily that the oil that they get out of in Uganda will be refined and used in Uganda, at least not in the short term. But when you sort of take a very long-term view on it, I think it's very positive and it definitely supports. I mean, Uganda is already a very, very fertile agricultural country, and that's often something which is missed in Uganda. Uganda is a hub for agricultural exports potentially to the region.